Hey guys, so I just wanted to make a pretty quick little video where I pretty much just go through all the bosses in the new raid and rank our mage specs for each of the fights. I'll be talking about the pros and cons of all of our specs for each fight and talking about like little niches that you might have and maybe what we're going to be seeing in the world first. And we'll be spending a little less time on the earlier bosses and then probably a bit more on like the middle to late bosses. Except for the last boss, I haven't really dove into the dungeon journal and don't have a whole lot of information about that boss. So I'll still give you like a little bit of an idea, but at the same time, if you're looking for like secret chips for the last boss, you're not really gonna find that here. So we're gonna start by talking about the first boss, Plexus Sentinel. Right now, I'm gonna put Arcane at like C for this fight. It has two little ads in the intermission that Arcane would really never do any damage to. Um, but I don't think the damage to those ads is going to be that important. But at the same time, like if you're just talking about single target, like Arcane's still going to be worse than Frost and Fire. So Frost, I'm just going to put a little bit above Arcane because if you do need damage to those ads, it'll be a lot better because they are freezable too. So you could grip them together and then you could shatter or whatever. But like Fire's just doing more damage than everything. So we're going to put Fire at S, which is probably going to be most of this video because current tuning Fire is above everything by quite a bit. Um, so we're going to do a quick little tip for the first boss. Um, so every intermission phase, basically, when he starts to suck you back, you could just press your alter time as high up as you can, wait for the suck to finish, and then alter back to your spot, and then you could beat all your friends early on. So you could hit the ads if it's that important, but you also don't need to be that cautious with your cloak ability or your movement. Um, so because you could blink over the lines that come to you as well. So that's just like a little tip for the first boss, and then we'll move on to the next couple pretty quickly. So for Loomithar, again, this is just a single target boss. There's little webs that you will need to hit, or shackles or whatever, when the tank breaks them, but it just doesn't really matter. Like, uh, like I think both these, like Arcane and Frost, is going to be somewhere between B and C, honestly. And we'll put them both at like high C, I guess. But like as of current tuning, there's no reason you wouldn't play Fire on this fight. I guess you could put Arcane a bit above Frost if your guild ends up lusting the second phase for execute damage. But if you lust at the start of the second phase, the boss is going to be at 50%, so you won't be an execute right away anyways. So at that point, I just say Fire is better than that. We could put Arcane at B just because of the execute damage mattering a bit more, and then there's like a 25% damage amp in the last phase, which I guess isn't nothing, but uh, pretty underwhelming if you ask me. So that's it for Loomithar. We'll go pretty quick for these ones. Okay, so for Soulbinder, this boss was kind of weird in testing. It had those ads, but those ads really didn't mean anything at all. I would say like all three specs are not bad for this fight. I would put Fire and Frost, honestly, both at S, and then Arcane at A. And we'll quickly look at a clip just to demonstrate why this is happening. So I think Fire and Frost could do very similar damage on this fight. A lot of this fight is you spawn two ads on the boss and you get three targets. Three targets is like pretty much best case scenario for Fire because you still get full value of um, your intensifying flame. And then for Frost, you're in like perfect targets for your Cone of Cold, for having improved Cone of Cold. And the only reason I'd put Arcane lower than the other two is because when all the ads spawn, you can see my timer right here where my mouse is. The big set of ads is about 2 minutes, so it's kind of weird for Arcane because you would need to hold your CDs for these ads. You would do a really good damage, but you can see how much Fire is doing when I'm still in Combust just to spread it to all these ads. And this is like older Fire that is actually worse than what it is right now. So like Frost could do really good damage to these ads too if it tries. Like you see Frost here is not that far behind like other specs. But like I think Arcane needing to hold CDs for these ads just makes it like a little bit worse. So we're gonna just do like a Fire and Frost really good for this fight. It depends on how much those ads really matter. Like Frost would do more ad damage, but Fire would just do more efficient damage overall and stuff. So um The next one we're going to be talking about, Forgeweaver Araz. This is actually another fight where I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. So what I really like about this fight, I'm going to put Fire S, Frost to S, and Arcane for A. So this is the fight with having all the little ads spawn pretty much entirely over the fight. It's like 3 sets of ad spawn over and over and over again. And you need to stop these ads from getting to a portal or else they'll deal a bunch of damage. So Frost is actually really good for this fight because you could do a lot of damage to those ads while just fully CCing them and slowing them and rooting them. So it depends on how much damage to those ads really matters. Because like fire will do very efficient damage to those ads. You're just hitting the boss the whole time and it'll do a lot of like ignite damage. It really would. Um, but like I don't know. I think it's very possible that having like lower rank guilds that aren't like super organized with their CC rotations, like a frost mage would be really valuable. But at the same time, like at a high world first level, they'll probably have other things set up for those ads. So just a fire mage cleaving ignite to those things will be more than enough for those guilds. And then Arcane I'm putting an A because it won't do a whole lot to those things. It'll still have like good funnel damage for the boss, and then there's also a damage amp phase. So if boss damage really matters, Arcane could be good for that. But with current fire tuning, in like a 10-second damage amp, I don't even think fire would be that far behind Arcane. Um, but we're gonna do a quick little clip here just to show this boss and show what Frost could do to these ads when it's fully targeting them. Just like they move so fast when they first spawn, but just like one glacial and a comet storm is just enough to like completely nuke them, and they're barely moving at this point. So I think it's very likely at the start of Prague on this fight, I'm even gonna start it as Frost and see if we care too much about these ads and see if we really need the CC. But if we don't end up needing it, then a fire mage is probably going to be more efficient damage to these things. But I don't know. Like it really just depends on how much HP they have and stuff. But that's it for this boss. And then oh my god, we gotta talk about the Demon Hunter boss. Okay, so the Soul Hunters. The Soul Hunters is interesting because it's a 3 target cleave fight. It's an optional boss in the raid, and it's kind of in a spot in the raid where you think it's going to be starting to be more of a difficult boss. That being said, them making it an optional boss, there's no way they're going to make it too hard because then people will just not do it. It has really important loot, so I don't know. I feel like it's very likely to be like maybe a 10 to 20 pull boss, but I would be honestly shocked if it's like somewhere in the 30 to 50 pull range. So if we're talking about a 3 target boss where the targets are jumping around all over the fucking place the whole time, I feel like fire is going to be like one of the only specs in the game that actually gets full uptime on 3 target cleave on this fight. Because like especially if you're thinking about like melee classes, like how are they going to be hitting all three of the mob or all three of the bosses at the same time? Like we could look at like a clip in a minute about them jumping around and stuff, but like I don't know, like 3 target cleave for like fire is like pretty much best case scenario, and I feel like most classes in the game won't actually get 3 target uptime. Frost I'd say is the next best thing for mage specs on this fight because it has like pretty much the best 2 target in the game, and so much of the fight will be 2 target cleave with how much they're jumping around besides ignite. If fire wasn't as strong as it is right now, I would say you definitely play Frost over Arcane on this fight. Like Arcane, I feel like could be good if the bosses are all stacked, like during your CDs. But if they're just jumping around all over the place, I think it's gonna be like very like it's not gonna be consistent that you're actually getting like full CD sends on these bosses. One more little tip for this boss is that Ice Block is actually really good on it because you could immune the like the hunt lines that they do, and then also in the intermission when there's a bunch of orbs coming out, you could soak a bunch of them and then immune the dot off you as well. So like here's a clip where like one boss is like all the way over here already, and then two bosses are like going to it, and then now they're finally stacked, and then this guy jumps away. And like I was playing Frost on testing because fire wasn't that good already, and I was mostly thinking about um, like here's the immune line where if you get this line on you, you could just stand, you could run to where it starts, so the line doesn't exist, so other people don't soak it by mistake, and then just block right next to it. But my thoughts of playing Frost on this fight was because two of them are going to be stacked pretty much the whole time, and Frost is really good two targets. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this boss. Again, like fire resist can be on top pretty much the whole way. So let's move on to the last two that are like pretty important. So Fractillus is like our like single target, pretty much like it's probably going to be like a damage check. Hopefully they'll tune it so it's like an enrage fight. So right now there's really not too much to talk about. Like fire's just doing more. Like fire is just going to be up there, and then I would say like frost and arcane are both going to be B tier right now, just because like frost is doing a bit more damage than arcane, but this is a big target where when you're frost bolting and you're flurrying, like those mess up all the time on targets this large. So right now there's not too much to talk about for this fight other than fire's doing the most damage as a single target boss. You're going to be picking fire on this boss. That's pretty much all there is to it. Um, so now we're going to talk about the second last boss, which is Nexus King. So this boss honestly has me very confused. I didn't get to do heroic testing. I was only there for mythic, and obviously it's the second last boss, so mythic testing was a bit difficult. We pretty much only saw the first phase, the group I was in at least, my guild, and we saw like the start of intermission, but not really. But I watched through the heroic VODs and stuff, so I have like an idea of it. So Frost I'm gonna put at B, and Arcane I'm gonna put at B, and Fire right now I'm gonna put at A. I don't really know like what to do here. So if you think about the phases of this fight, you start single target, cool, and then there's a two target phase, um, which is like perfect for Frost. It's a two target phase, and how the phases line up, if Mythic is the same timing as Heroic, is you have Icy for both those phases. And Frost could do so much two target damage in those two phases. But right after those two target phases, there's a damage amp that's 30 seconds. If you're spending Icy on the two targets, you're not going to have it for the damage amp. So that just makes me think Frost is pretty much useless. And that damage amp is single target for those of you who don't know. For Arcane, I don't know exactly how these CDs line up, but the like intermission ad platforms don't seem like they'll matter damage wise that much because you're gonna have 10 players on each side. So the damage to those things shouldn't matter too much. It's not like you're gonna send a big surge on it and then not have it for the damage amp. So I don't know, for both Arcane and Frost, it just seems like the fight's like almost really good for them, but then some things don't really make sense. And then for Sunfury UI Fire, you're gonna have your CDs whenever you want them. So if we need ad damage, you could combust those ads and it's gonna do really good ad damage because there's one big ad and then a bunch of little ads. It's the perfect case for Arcane and Fire. So you could do that if you need to, and then odds are, if you're playing Fire, if you do that, you're still going to have your CDs for the two target phase and the damage amp because your CDs are so short. So I like Fire could be S, it could be somewhere in between. I don't think the spec is like perfect for the fight. I would say like probably Arcane's like profile is better for the fight, but it just doesn't really make full sense to me. For the most part, it's probably just going to be Fire on most bosses. But if you do like enjoy Frost a lot or you enjoy Arcane a lot, um, like you could play those specs on most of these bosses, pretty much all of these bosses, and not be griefing your guild if you're in like a lower rank guild. Um, so that's pretty much all we need to talk about, except for the last boss. So Dimensius. Uh Based on current tuning, we need to put Fire up top. We're gonna put Arcane at A because a lot of the time execute damage really matters on boss fights. Like Fire has really good execute too, though. So like that's okay, but like also Arcane's profile is just always good on last bosses. It just always lines up. I don't know what it is. So again, this is me making a decision without seeing the boss at all. Could be completely wrong. Listen, all of these decisions could be completely wrong. It is what it is. It's all good. But what probably isn't completely wrong is I'm gonna put Frost at not playable on this fucking boss, man. Because all I know about this boss is in P1, I believe. It's just a massive target, right? And you're supposed to be incredibly small, and you're hitting a large target from far away. And when that happens, when you're playing Frost Mage, is your flurries just start to fuck up, and you just lose like so much damage and value, and you think you're gonna get an icicle, and you don't get an icicle. So you're pressing Glacial Spike, and you're at 4 icicles, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And it just doesn't work. The only way I would ever see Frost being played on this fight is if it randomly gets buffed by like 15% tomorrow. Like, other than that, like, I really don't know what to say. It's not gonna be good. Like, so it is what it is. Most likely on tuning, it's gonna be fire on most bosses. If you really enjoy Arcane, if you really enjoy Frost, you could definitely be playing that on pretty much all these fights and still be performing really well. But again, this is totally based off current tuning. We're about 2 weeks out from the actual patch, so there's going to be more tuning, but who knows how much mage tuning there's going to be. But yeah, I did decide to get this video out, a little bit of different stuff. I don't really normally do content like this, but honestly, I was just kind of a little bored and thought it would be cool to get a video like this out. So let me know what you think. If you have different thoughts on these bosses or what mage specs you'd be playing, feel free to put that in the comments. And yeah, you could check out my stream, eatblood underscore on Twitch, if you guys want to be watching any of the prog that's going on in 2-3 weeks. We'll be streaming all that. But yeah, GG's guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy.